Hi, good morning, everybody. We will get started in just one more minute as we wait for folks to log in, so we'll be right back. Hi, good morning, everyone. My name is Jana Simon. I'm a program director here at the Illinois Public Health Institute, and welcome to the webinar, Why Invest in Health and Wellness? The Impact of Health, Nutrition, Physical Activity, and Fitness on Student Academic Achievement, Health, and Behavior. So we thank you so much for joining us this morning. We have a really great webinar and speakers ready for you today. And for all of those who are registered, we will send out a recording of today's webinar after the fact. So I will go ahead and get us started. As you can see here, I'm Jana Simon, and I'm with my colleague here, Sarah Chusad, whom we will be moderating the webinar today. And I'm going to hand it over to Sarah to talk about some logistics.
Great, thank you, Jana. We're all happy you could join us. So some housekeeping. Organizers and panelists, the presenters will be, we're going to mute all phones during the presentation. So if you want to communicate with us or ask questions, you can do so via the chat box or the questions box on your sidebar on the right. There will be time for Q&A at the end, and we'll take live questions. You can go ahead and use that raise hand option if you do have a question and chat us if you'd like to say something. There are going to be interactive portions of this webinar. We'll have some polls where we're getting your ideas and your feedback. Again, using the chat box is where you would engage throughout the webinar. If you have technical issues, you can email me at sarah.chusad@iphionline.org. Please note, there's sometimes a little delay in advancing slides. Also, as Jana mentioned, we are recording this webinar, and we will send you all a recording of the webinar. So you can listen to it and share it out with your districts and your colleagues. And a note on the CPDUs. So to be eligible for the one CPDU we're offering, we're going to need to have you fill out and return the Illinois State Board of Education evaluation that you will find as a PDF on your sidebar. So go ahead and download that and fill it out. You can email it to me, or you can fax it to us at 312-850-4040, 312-850-4040. And also, I'll need you to actively listen and participate for the entire webinar as well. And I will need you to provide your IEIN number. I have that from some of you. So basically, after the webinar, I'm going to make sure I have all the paperwork I need and that record of participation. And then I will follow up to give you a certificate of completion for your hour CPDU.
Great, thanks, Sarah. And so just to quickly give some information about the Illinois Public Health Institute before we get started. We are a nonprofit that works in Illinois, and we work in partnership to promote prevention and improve the public health system for health and health equity in Illinois. We have a long history of working to support school health, and we have worked with the State Board of Education to staff some physical education task forces that help revise the state learning standards for physical development and health and help develop the fitness testing protocols. We have also advocated for and supported change at the local and state level to support student health, and we have led many professional development opportunities, especially around physical education. So we're excited to bring this webinar to you today to get into some real concrete strategies and hear some case studies across Illinois of schools and districts doing a great job to promote school health. So today's webinar objective, we really want to share with you some of the neuroscience connecting health promoting environments and improved student outcomes. The real crux of the webinar today is to provide real-life case studies of districts and schools overcoming implementation challenges for school health, and then help you all participate in brainstorming solutions for your own challenges related to PE and school health best practice in your schools and districts. So with that, we are going to launch with a poll to figure out who's on the webinar today. So if we can all have you let us know what your role is in your district or school, we will go ahead and launch the poll now. You have a few seconds to describe it. So please go ahead and fill out this poll and let us know who you are. About a quarter of you have voted, so we'll give it another minute or so for you to find your role and put it in there. Last few seconds. All right, let's go ahead and close the poll. And we'll share it out in just a second here. All right, so it does look like, as you can see, there's actually a majority of you are other, so we'll have to look and see what that is. If you can type it in the chat box, we'll get a sense of who you are. But a lot of department chairs and teachers and a few administrators, and welcome to the principals who are on. So thank you all so much for joining. So to kick us off, we are going to go ahead and have Dr. Jean Sophie join us today. So Dr. Sophie, if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself, you can get started. She's the superintendent of Lake Bluff Schools District 65, and she's here to share her story. So Dr. Sophie, go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. I am in my 12th year as a superintendent, 8th in Lake Bluff Schools, and I have been associated with Enhanced PE for about 7 years now at this point, as the chair of the Committee on Enhanced PE Promotion for the Enhanced Physical Education Task Force, the chair of the Stakeholder and Expert Task Force on PE, and then I have given some presentations on our return in investment to different peer groups. You know, I became associated with this. IASA, my organization, asked me to sit on this committee really to handle and just keep explaining, no, we can't do that. There are so many other things in schools that we really have to be careful of and where our monies need to go to. And the next couple slides, when I go through them, are going to be talking about things that really help me shape my quote-unquote conversion story. And I would call myself now a PE champion in our schools. So I want to show you these slides and talk to you a little bit about what changed my mind and converted me. This next slide is really the first slide that I started looking at as a superintendent right now in a wealthier community where we could actually afford PE every day. This really rung true for me, but I also thought back into my past school districts where I had many children that just struggled to get to school, many on free and reduced, etc. There really is a growing body of neuroscience research that shows a return on investment for implementing enhanced PE programs, where we see improvements in test scores, academic achievement, and in-class behavior. As you can see on the slide, improved fitness and physical activity levels are associated with improved health-reduced risk of disease, improved mental health, and fewer sick days from school, better learners, improved academic and cognitive performance, and improved behaviors. It really improves on-task and less disruptive behavior in classrooms. This slide made me start really thinking about things. A 2015 publication from Active Living Research reported that when kids are physically active on a regular basis, they do better in math, reading, and writing. Kids who are physically active are more likely to miss fewer days of school and have lower rates of absenteeism. According to the CDC, regular physical activity reduces kids' risk of developing chronic diseases such as heart disease, cancer, and type 2 diabetes. But that's not all. The next slide is going to show you brain function, and I have always been fascinated by brain research. This is the slide that really made me convert to being a major advocate for PE and for physical activity. These images demonstrate the impact of movement on brain function. This is a composite of the scans of 20 middle school students' brains while taking the same test. The brain image on the left is a composite image of students who sat quietly before taking the test. The brain image on the right is the same 20 students taking the test after a 20-minute walk. you see that the brain on the right is much more lit up, indicating that the student is ready to learn. In fact, students who are scheduled for daily PE directly before the courses where they're struggling most academically, for instance, math or literacy, have been shown to demonstrate growth a full grade level higher than their peers. Very important. Studies show that students who are more fit score better on standardized tests as well. Now, when we're in schools, we know that we're seeing increased issues with social emotional health. And according to a report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, physical activity in youth also improves mental health by decreasing and preventing conditions such as anxiety and depression, and enhancing self-esteem and physical self-concept. Physical activity can improve kids' mental health. According to a report from the National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, physical activity can decrease and prevent conditions like anxiety and depression among kids. Physical activity helps kids build positive self-esteem. Kids feel better when they participate in physical activity. And it was at this point where I started thinking about maybe we can't afford not involving kids in physical activity. The improvements are really some things to think about. Now, on the next slide, which has probably been one of my bigger challenges, how can school leaders support wellness? And in my case, as a superintendent, it's really hard to get in front of a superintendent and talk about physical fitness and physical enhanced PE because of the fact that we have limited resource and so many wants. So as school leaders, we could support wellness by really learning about the link between physical education and improved student outcomes, prioritizing school health and physical education, that should be starred, educating your school board on the importance of PE and wellness and the return on investment for the students and the district, encouraging regular high-quality PE and the recommended amount of physical activity for all students, and providing professional development for physical education and the health staff. And that's my story. I believe strongly in physical activity for students.
Great, thank you, Dr. Sophie. So before we launch into the rest of the case studies, we do want to talk a little bit about why we should invest in health and wellness. So we wanted to share a few slides. I'm sure many of you are familiar with these models, but we want to make sure we provide them for those who may not be. So we really frame all of this work in the whole school, whole community, and whole child model, which is a model developed, it was launched in 2014 by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention and some other health organizations. It's a 10-component model that emphasizes the importance of leveraging the school environment to not only promote academic achievement, but also promote healthy development for students, and doing so in a safe, engaged, supported, challenged, and healthy way. So the green ring are those values, the safe, supported, healthy, challenged, and engaged. And it's based on collaboration between the school, the health, and the community sectors to improve child's health and learning. So it's not just the school's responsibility. This is really looking at everyone in the community working together. So we see things that there's 10 blue components surrounding the child to create a full range of learning and health support systems. And these include things such as the physical environment, employee wellness, health services, nutrition environment, physical education, health education, and community involvement. And the yellow band around the outside shows that while the school may be a hub for student health promotion, it requires community input, resources, and collaboration. So the model focuses attention on the child, who's at the center of the model, but we also know that children are also part of the solution and can be engaged in this and are not just sort of passive recipients of the model. So you can find more information about this model on the Center for Disease Control and Prevention School Health website, but it really puts school health in a comprehensive way. And I think you'll hear pieces of this model throughout the case studies today as people talk about partnerships with others in their community to get this done. And just a note about nutrition, a lot of the case studies today will be around general wellness culture and physical education, but we do want to touch on nutrition. because it is really important. So evidence shows obviously that certain factors in the school environment can positively influence the health of students and improve academic achievement. The factors include access to healthy foods and opportunities for physical activity. We know that, as you know from what Dr. Sophie just shared, healthy students learn better. Studies have found that students who participate in the USDA school breakfast program are associated with an increase in academic grades and standardized test scores, reduced absenteeism, and improved cognitive performance. So similar to what Dr. Sophie shared with physical activity and PE, nutrition has similar impacts. We also know that nutrition is important for student growth and development, and nutrient deficiencies can also cause problems. So for example, iron deficiency, even in early stages, can decrease dopamine transmission, which negatively impacts cognition. So nutrients in food are really critical to the growing body, and students, and good nutrition can help prepare students to learn. We also know that because improvements in nutrition make students healthier, students are likely to have fewer absences and attend class more frequently. And students' behavior may improve and cause fewer disruptions in the classroom, creating a better learning environment for all students in that class. And finally, we know that the quality of the diet is associated with better performance on exams, and that programs focused on increasing students' health also show modest improvements in students' academic test scores. So diet quality is really important. And I know a lot of our food programs are guided by federal policy and some state requirements and information as well. But schools can even go beyond that and really focus on creating a healthy food environment in addition to the actual food being served, to try to promote consumption of those healthy foods, promote positive environments around foods, and overall help students enjoy the good nutrition provided to them. So with that, I will go ahead and move us on to have Sarah move us on to the physical activity piece, but we just want to make sure we noted that nutrition aspect of health and wellness. So Sarah, you can go ahead and take it from here.
Thank you. So another model that builds out in more detail the physical activity and physical education components of the WISC model is what's called the Comprehensive School Physical Activity Program, or the CSPAP. It's also developed by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and it's a multi-component approach that enables schools and districts to utilize all opportunities for students to be physically active throughout the day. Also meeting that nationally recommended 60 minutes of physical activity per day, and through that developing the knowledge, skills, and confidence that students need to be physically active for a lifetime. So you can see on the slide that the CSPAP has 5 components: physical education, physical activity before and after school, physical activity during school, staff involvement, and family and community engagement. I want to talk a little bit more about what's called the enhanced PE approach. So enhanced PE is an evidence-based recommendation that is in the CDC's Guide for Community Prevention Services. We've been working here in Illinois once we recognized the neuroscience and the connection between physical activity and brain function, and the fact that physical education is that key opportunity for physical activity. Learned about the enhanced PE approach and decided to come back here to Illinois and promote it throughout the state. So the main components are focused on health and fitness, knowledge and skill building, confidence skill building through activities. One of the central components is getting those moderate to vigorous physical activity levels up to 50% of class time. And then an emphasis on small-sided games, where it's really about having the students moving continuously at every opportunity rather than large group games. And we always like to have this definition of physical education. It's so important to understand what is physical education. And so you can see there on the slide, but I definitely want to emphasize that it is this planned sequence of developmentally appropriate activities and games that is educating the students about and through movement. It is a planned curriculum that's providing opportunities for students to learn about the importance of being active and working with others as they're practicing physical skills. And linking back to the benefits we had previously discussed around physical education, I did want to just highlight in a little bit more detail this recent 2019 research review that found that increasing the amount of time that's allocated to PE during the school day has benefits for student learning, those cognitive, affective, and psychomotor skills. And it has no detrimental effects on student learning. The researchers concluded that contrary to practices that reduce the number of PE minutes in favor of allocating those to test taking time or other subjects of perceived, perhaps greater learning value, the time spent in PE is an effective way to improve learning. I will note this review didn't consider the quality of PE classes, but just imagine the value and how much greater it may be if students are participating in that high quality PE. I also like to just illustrate the difference between physical activity and PE. So we talked about the CSPAP model, and it is definitely important for students to have opportunities to be active throughout the day, especially to get to that 60 minutes of physical activity that's needed to achieve optimal health outcomes. But nothing can replace physical education. So how is it different? PE is different from, it complements physical activity in that it is instructed by a qualified teacher who is assessing student knowledge, motor skills, and social skills that students need to establish and maintain and sustain a healthy lifestyle. And the goal of PE is to develop physically literate students. And what does that mean? What does it mean to be physically literate? It means mastering fundamental movement and sport skills that permit a child to read their environment and make appropriate decisions, allowing them to move confidently and with control in a wide range of physical activity situations. In other words, PE teachers are providing students with knowledge, skills, and confidence to enjoy a lifetime of physical activity. And it is unique in PE in that the teacher is covering all three learning domains: cognitive, psychomotor, and affective. With that, I'm going to turn it back over to Jana to talk about some of our state and federal requirements around wellness.
Thank you, Sarah. So finally, before we jump into the case studies, we just wanted to share currently what's required. So anyone participating in the National School Lunch or Breakfast Program, the districts are required to have a wellness policy, and those wellness policies spell out the nutrition, physical activity, and other school health environments that are part of that district, and or sometimes schools have them too, policies. Here in Illinois, we currently have a requirement that physical education be provided at a minimum of 3 days per week. And there are opportunities for districts to receive waivers, but I know from the state board there's a limited number of waivers that are active right now. And we know that the national best practice, which is promoted by the Centers for Disease Control and Shape America, is that students receive 150 minutes of PE per week in elementary school, so it's about 30 minutes a day, or 225 minutes of PE per week in secondary school, so middle and high school students about 45 minutes a day, and that is currently the best practice. We also know in Illinois a few years ago, the task force that Dr. Sophie was chair of or co-chair of helped update the learning standards for student development and health, and those updated standards were adopted by the State Board of Education and implemented in the 2015-2016 school year. And if you look at the standards and compare to what they used to be, they really integrated the neuroscience research that we've heard about regarding the impact of physical activity on health, really helping students understand the why. Why is it important to stay active, not just to their health, but to their learning as well. It focuses a lot more on cooperation and the integration of social emotional learning, and it focuses on lifelong skills for health and fitness, not just sports and game skills. So those, again, were updated a few years ago. And then the year following, some new requirements that were also from one of the task forces Dr. Sophie mentioned was the fitness testing is now required for all students in grades 3 through 12, and its data for 5th, 7th, and 10th graders is reported to the state in an aggregate level via the Iowa system. And this uses the free methodology available through the Presidential Youth Fitness Program. So now fitness testing should be occurring for everyone in grades 3 through 12 each year with that data reported to the state. And that the data is publicly available on ISBE's website. And one last note, the state standards that were revised are listed here on the left. These are state standards 19 through 24 that deal with physical development and health. And you can see the high-level standards, and then, of course, the performance descriptors and other things that in more detail are on the State Board of Education's Enhanced PE website. And National Shape America also has standards for PE, which you see on the right. And so those are out there and available to anyone who is interested in reviewing them in more detail. We recommend you align your curriculum with the Illinois Learning Standards as they go beyond the national standards, but also taking a look at those national and make sure you're not missing anything from them. So with that, we will go ahead and move into our case study discussion, and Sarah will introduce the first section here. And so Sarah, go ahead.
Yep, so we will be hearing about a series of 6 case studies in Illinois districts that have overcome challenges to implementing best practices around school health and physical education. And we do want to start off a little feedback from you. We have another poll. This will help inform our discussion going forward. But we want to hear, what is your biggest challenge in terms of health and physical education best practice implementation? You'll see there on the slide, I'll launch the poll in one sec, but funding, resources, staffing, scheduling, facilities and equipment are some common big areas we hear about, but if there's something else, go ahead and select other and type that into the chat box. So now I'm going to go ahead and launch the poll right now. You can go ahead and enter in your responses. And we have about 20% in. We'd love to get some more responses. We'll probably give it about 10 more seconds. And I see we're just under 50%, so we're going to give you 5 more seconds to get in your responses. We'd love to hear from you. Again, if you have other, feel free to type that in the chat or question box. And I'm going to go ahead and close this out and share our results. So you can see here, facilities and equipment being the strongest challenge at just over 30%, scheduling at 27%, and staffing and funding equally at 20%. Thank you for that feedback. I'm going to go ahead and hide the responses. And now we'll move on. So just a little disclaimer before we really head into this. As I mentioned, we'll be discussing 6 case studies. They are highlighting different aspects of the WISC and CSPAP models implementation with that focus on PE and how districts are working through challenges. We will be working through these fairly quickly. And feel free, if questions come up for you, you can go ahead and put them in the chat box. But we did want to say that participation as a case study informant does not necessarily constitute or imply endorsement of any current or future PE or other school health policies. Now with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Jane Vegas, who is an Assistant Superintendent at Berwyn South School District 100. Jane, take it away.
Jane, you might be on mute.
Berwyn South School District 100 is 75% low-income population, 90% Hispanic, with the others being Caucasian or Black. And so we are considered a low-income school. And about 10 years ago, we had a new superintendent that prioritized health and wellness. One example is he made each of our 8 schools principals write health goals into the SIP plan, the school improvement plan. He had administrators and staff write personal health goals each year and monitored how we did on our health goals, personal health goals. He also got the Board of Education support to put into play some really good changes for us. We applied and received the community eligible food plan for free breakfast, lunch, and dinner if the middle school students stayed after 4 o'clock. We also participate in the Fresh Fruits and Vegetable State Program. And so the other slide that talked about nutrition, it's really, really important. And we have found that the children are eating a lot of nutritious food through our Earmark program, who's a big partner of ours. We also have a really robust wellness plan. Committee work has updated our wellness plan and put not just policy like got it approved through the Board of Education, but also procedures into place so that our staff now has access to our 2 fitness centers in our middle schools for free. We have before and after school Zumba classes for not only students, but also parents if they want to come in. We have Girls in the Run, marathon clubs, lots and lots of activities for the students and families to participate in physical activities. In all of this, we worked really closely with Julia Gotten from the Safe Schools Alliance and Healthy Generations, and we applied and earned some of the award opportunities. All 8 of our schools received the Healthier U.S. School Challenge Award, either gold or silver level, and that has an effect on accelerating change in the process. Our parent-teacher organizations, PTOs, they work really well with us about only serving healthy food at even night events. Not everyone, doesn't want to bring out the candy or the nachos with cheese, but we have gradually gotten everyone on board of healthy eating and snacks. The community partnership has really grown. We have the local health department, our police department does some really fun things on walk to school days. McNeil Hospital is in our community, and they provide lots of services. Each of our schools has a wellness fair, and McNeil Hospital will come and bring different things for the parents to see, check for diabetes and blood pressure and things like that. Our PE teacher group, we have 12 PE teachers in the school district, and we worked really hard on the enhancement of state standards, comparing our local standards to the state and also to the federal, and they have a really good Google Doc full of activities that all the PE teachers can refer to. Just like teachers in reading and math do, our PE teachers now collaborate with their plans too. An area of growth that we are looking at, so we have 2 middle schools that do have PE every day, 5 days a week, and meet the standards. Our kindergarten through 5th grade have it 3 days a week currently. While we do brain breaks and physical activities during the day, we do not currently have room in our gymnasiums, are also our lunchrooms. And so we are restricted by time in the gymnasium. And we're looking at not only funding for teachers, but also restrictions in our facilities and equipment kinds of things. And this coming year, I know our current superintendent is looking at that.
Thank you very much, Superintendent Vegas. Okay, so now I'm going to highlight a different case study. This is Sarah again. For this one, I spoke with the superintendent/principal, Bob Bowser, Allendale Community Consolidated School District 17. You can see there's some facts on the slide about the district. It is a smaller district. It is in a rural area in Wabash County. They teach pre-K through 8th grade. So a couple of things I'd like to highlight around PE is Superintendent Bowser really prioritizes PE. For him, PE is just something you have to make happen, period. It is a non-negotiable, despite all the other challenges and competing scheduling interests. But his belief is it is just as important as anything else. So really, he made it happen in any way he had to. Their biggest challenge is teacher shortage. So one thing they did to deal with this and to justify having a full-time position for the PE teacher was to have the PE teacher teach not only PE, but health and also computers. There is no certification requirement to teach computers. That was a workaround to stretch that time and make it a full-time position. The other thing they stretched is equipment. So they got a large grant for equipment 7 years ago, but they're very much still using it today. In fact, he said some things they still have yet to break open, but the equipment can last a long time if it needs to be. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Principal Justin Horn from Monroe Elementary School in Hinsdale Community Consolidated School District 181 to hear his story. Principal Horn?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks for having me here today. I've been principal of Monroe for the last 7 years, and I've been part of District 181 for the last 16 years in total. And there's been a large commitment to movement and physical education. We were one of the early adopters of having everyday PE. And here at Monroe, we're really proud that we have 2 blue ribbons. We have now won the PE blue ribbon for Illinois through IAFERD twice now. And then one of those preceded the National Blue Ribbon in 2016, and I don't think it was a coincidence that the commitment that we made to health and wellness led to more academic achievement, and the research continues just to show that over and over, the importance of the two. So we're really proud of those two facts. A couple things I wanted to highlight today is just the challenges with scheduling, and one thing that I really focused on when I came to Monroe was trying to eliminate as much wasted time as possible. Teachers will ask for passing time, but we were starting to see if we provided 5-minute passing time between different subjects and specials, in reality it would take 7 minutes before they would actually start the next activity. So once we found that we would just eliminate and have 0-minute passing times between specials and subjects, they actually were able to get that down to about 2 minutes. And through just creative scheduling and just pre-planning and making sure we didn't have like a 5th grade followed by a kindergarten where there was going to be a huge equipment changeover, we were really able to accomplish that. And that is not only provided with more movement time and more physical education time, but the teachers are now appreciating that it was allowing them bigger chunks of time later in the schedule to have common plan and to free up some of their time. And it was able to help us control some of the FTE as well. So that was something our business manager and HR really liked. So we went down to 0-minute passing time with no gaps. We also tried to make an effort to team teach whenever possible. We do have a large gym, so we can have 2 classes going on and remove the wall. So if we could have 2 5th grade classes going at the same time, we would, and do some team teaching there, or 5th and 4th. And at times we might even have a 3rd in kindergarten where we might have some older students model for the younger students and work together. So we were cognizant of that. We also started to prioritize our PE scheduling, and we would look at our cohorts of students and look to see which students might really need specific movement at a certain time, and we would schedule it accordingly. So if we had a class that really needed that movement before or after an intense subject, we would prioritize them in the schedule, and we would see the benefits through less referrals and less behavior issues, and an increase in scores. So that's been another thing we've really looked at. We were aware of the research out of Naperville. They really tried to have all their PE scheduling happen right before challenging classes and saw some great results. So we've tried to do more and more of that through having morning milers, running clubs. This year we're going to have a winter Monroe Movers Club for students that are at risk either academically, socially, emotionally, and have them come in before school and get some movement in our new movement lab that's pictured there on the screen. And a little bit more about that movement lab. That was a team effort. It came through teachers requesting a space where they could bring students to get more movement, especially in the winter months. And the PTO helped fund this area, and we were able to use an old basement art room that was just storage and convert it to this kinesthetic movement lab. And now we can have whole classes down there. We can use it for indoor recess. We use it for PE classes at times. Maybe if there's a performance going on in the gym and they lose that space, they can move their class down to the movement lab. We also prioritize it for students that just need that movement. So before, where they might just be doing stairs, now they're doing much more prescribed movements, and they might even be doing flashcards while they're on a machine and able to get that movement and learning happening at the same time. So that's been a huge benefit. That's new this year. And we're seeing such benefits from that. We're now starting to explore more options, including some pedal desks and other opportunities to have kids move in the classroom. With that said, just a final note, none of this movement or exercise will replace PE. I think the earlier slide that talked about the definition behind what physical education is really important, that you have to have that in your program more than anything. And the rest of the movement is good, but PE is something you need to prioritize. So thank you.
Thank you, Principal Horn. All right, so now we are going to move into a reflection. We want to hear from you and talk about this a bit, the subject. So, pardon that. So we want you to take 1 to 2 minutes to reflect and type into the chat box for the question I have at the bottom. So you can see here this is about scheduling, and we want to ask, what would you change about the current way you schedule to enhance time for PE, health, and wellness? And we really want to hear from everyone. Not only will it help us have a robust conversation and talk through issues together, but also the state board does require that in order to get a CPDU, you need active engagement. That's my little plug. So please go ahead and type your responses into either the question or chat box now, and we will read off and reflect on what you have to say. You know, and as a reminder, some of the things Principal Horn was saying and that we've heard is eliminating passing time to maximize instructional time, eliminating gaps in the master schedule. Sometimes team teaching can have to do with scheduling, can also have to do with using space effectively.
Yeah, so it looks like some folks are saying making PE a priority just in and of itself is a helpful tip for scheduling. Someone mentioned it'd be nice to not have students right after lunch, but that's been hard for them, and so scheduling to not have students right after lunch would be helpful. Someone else said I would change 4th and 3rd grade from 1 hour a week to 30-minute sessions, maximize instruction time, encourage teachers not to keep students out of PE. Yeah, we hear that a lot, that PE should not be used as punishment, or taking people out of PE should not be used as punishment. Making movement more of a priority and not so much just sitting and having discussions. Great. Any final thoughts before we move on? Someone says we have 5 teachers with a minimum of 30 students and they need more space, so space is a limitation. Use time before school as optional recess time or school-wide movement through morning announcements. Great. And last one, we do a good job with PE time, however, more time is needed on health and wellness. One person said they have 600 students to themselves. I wish you could have more teachers. So it sounds like some of the other challenges around teacher shortage and equipment and facilities are definitely on folks' minds. So let's go ahead and move on, and we will go ahead and hear some more case studies, and then we'll have one more reflection at the end. So this is Jana again. I'm going to share a little bit about Davis Elementary School in Chicago Public Schools District. I talked with the Principal Rosales. So this is a school in the Brighton Park neighborhood of Chicago, of about 637 students pre-K through 8th grade. They do have 3 PE teachers, which the principal noted was actually very lucky for a Chicago public school to have 3. Most have 1 or 2, and a few have none. So she felt very lucky to have 3. The new principal came about 5 years ago, and when she came, there was really not a focus on health and wellness at all, and she really felt like she needed to establish that focus. So she established a health committee, and the first thing she had to actually do to get some buy-in was to work with parents. So she had buy-in from her staff and whatnot sooner, but she knew that in order to make change in the school, the parents had to be engaged. So she set some expectations with the parents around nutrition, and she also started to offer resources. So she partnered with Healthy Schools campaign to involve parents in a healthy school garden activity. They created a community garden at the school, and she started hosting cooking and nutrition classes as well. And once the parents started to get engaged and see the benefits of the nutrition aspect, she was able to move with the parents to do more work at the school. She's also found that community partnerships were really important. So for her, bringing in some dance companies, sporting teams, so the Blackhawks in Chicago come and do a hockey demo every year that provides them with hockey equipment during that time that they don't otherwise have at the school. The dance studio provides the dance expertise for certain things. They also have some programs like Urban Initiatives has a structural racism program called Work to Play that gets kids moving and talks about other issues the communities may be facing. But really these partnerships helped her create a lot more added equipment, facilities, and expertise at the school that she wouldn't have had otherwise. So she really recommends community partnership as well as parent engagement. She is meeting the Chicago Public Schools PE policy of having an average of 150 minutes per week for each student. She does this by rotating, so students get either 2 or 3 times per week in the gym and the for 60-minute classes. And for the students who are on the quarter who have only 2 days a week in the gym, they're alternating with the health curriculum for that month or for that quarter. So they are getting the full PE and health requirement from CPS at an average of 150 minutes a week. So that's how she's able to do that. And so she says it's not the perfect way of doing it. She wishes she could get kids in more often, but it does get them the recommended time across the year and gets all of the health and PE requirements. And it also plays up the possibility with the limited facilities they have. And so her biggest tip to others is just to engage parents and partners, because that's how she was able to do it at her school. And having them on board has created a whole bunch of champions for her, and it doesn't just have to be her and the teachers doing it. So with that, I will go ahead and turn it over to Principal Dougherty at Hononegah Community High School to talk about his case study. So go ahead, Principal Dougherty.
Good morning, everybody. It's Chad Dougherty calling from Hononegah Community High School in Rockland, Illinois. We're a school of unique in that we're a single high school district of about 2,000 kids. We've got 4 center districts. Our PE teachers conduct regular articulation meetings with those center districts who all operate independently as independent districts, and that can be a challenge. We had a unifying factor take place, I think about 5 years ago now. One of our highly motivated PE teachers who's been integral in all of this, Mr. Dan Phelps, along with a dedicated group of PE teachers, but Dan authored the Carol M. White PEP grant, and so I think there was about $1.3 million 5 years ago, and that resulted in a lot of materials that were distributed across all 5 of the districts, our single high school district here, as well as the 4 others. Those materials included most intricately our heart rate monitors, which are used every day to monitor activity in class for instructional purposes and to educate kids about the importance of heart rate during physical activity, as well as heart rate recovery timeframes as part of the instructional component. There were many other materials, including in that Carol M. Foster PEP grant timeframe, where we received funding for a cardio lab, which is a wonderful facility within our building. What you're looking at there on the image, though, is the brand new field house fitness room area, and the field house itself is an $18 million addition to this building that was completed in April of last year with Olympic grade Mondo flooring, 200-meter track. It's a really state-of-the-art facility and emphasizes the investment that our community and our district has placed in physical health and wellness. In addition, our curriculum has continued to evolve. The PE department, as I mentioned, does articulate regularly with the center districts, but they have done a lot of work among themselves to make the curriculum very robust and to integrate the cognitive components. Our goal is to have students who, when they leave Hononegah, have the ability to put together an exercise program for themselves that involves nutrition, physical health and wellness, and could endure injury, for example. That's our goal, is to have kids that are skilled enough to be able to take what they've learned and apply it outside of school into their entire lives. And so we're excited to have a state-of-the-art facility to be able to do it in. The facility is obviously used by athletic programs and our physical education programs. In addition, Mr. Phelps has started an important group, the Health and Happiness Group here at Hononegah, which involves community members, parents, and many staff members and students in several groups. The groups include movement in the classroom, social emotional. We've got a character education component to this as well. There's a drug awareness and social media awareness, as well as cell phone use group. And so all of these efforts, all of the work being done is designed to work back from each of the subgroups back into a cabinet of organizers who then take their feedback back to an advisory board. That advisory board includes local medical professionals. We got a physician on there who's also a parent in the district, as well as some board members who are involved. So we've really got a lot invested in both the academic and physical wellness of our kids, the cognitive growth and physical development of our kids. I'm excited to say that's not the end of it. TRX has been a big part, the TRX training system has been a big part of the integration of our field house, and we have arranged for a TRX training to take place here at Hononegah in the coming months. And so this department really has continued to help us lean forward in the area of health and wellness, and we are very invested and know the benefits of it. All of this brain science that people have spoken to earlier is a part of our effort as well. We have bikes in classrooms, in several classrooms, and we've also got touch boards for those students that may benefit from taking those kinds of breaks within the day to get their bodies engaged, as we saw the brain scan at the beginning of this presentation, which does speak to the importance of being active. So that's it at Hononegah.
Great, thank you. And now, last but not least, I'm going to turn it over to Dr. Lisa Small, who's the Associate Superintendent for Instruction at Township High School District 211. So Dr. Small, go ahead and take it away.
Good morning, everyone. Just a little bit about our district. We're a large high school district in the northwest suburbs with about 12,000 students. We have five large high schools ranging from 2,000 students to 2,700 students. with our free and reduced lunch population going anywhere from 15% at one school to over 50% at 2 of our schools. So we began our remodeling, revamping, mindset change over our PE and our health departments when we started really looking at the needs of our kids, looking at their stress levels, their anxiety, their decreased fitness levels and poor nutrition, and started the conversation of, okay, what do our kids really need? And looked at it from a completely blank slate perspective. And it was truly a mindset shift going from a traditional 1 semester health class that was completely outside of the 4 years of PE, and looking at how the concepts of wellness, whether it be fitness, decision making, nutrition, or social emotional health, really combined together. So as we were having those brainstorming curriculum conversations, that's when we came across a different model, which is our wellness classes. We no longer have 1 semester of health and 4 separate individual years of PE. We have a freshman and sophomore wellness class. Those classes are 32 students, so we went from 45 students in the class to 32. And we had some very good conversations with our PE and our health teachers, starting to look at what is truly wellness from a 14-year-old perspective and then a 15, 16-year-old perspective in terms of what they need at that time. And the great part of that conversation was our critical learning standards that you see in front of you that I mentioned really are the 4 base components of all 4 of our years of wellness. So the difference between freshman, sophomore year now and our upcoming junior, senior year wellness classes is our freshman, sophomore year wellness now has a classroom component. So that classroom component involves obviously some more traditional pieces of a classroom, but also then there's an application of the active fitness component along the way. And kind of what Chad was referencing in terms of helping students be ready for when they leave us, that's exactly what we were looking at. So meeting them where they are freshman and sophomore year, junior and senior year, really preparing them for when they go out into the world, having a great base in these 4 areas as they move forward. I would say some of our challenges in creating this different mindset and as well as the program was the development of a new curriculum. People like to talk about their current setup in terms of health and PE, and what we were trying to do was force them to talk about wellness as opposed to dropping health into a PE program. And I think my chairs and my teachers have done a great job of doing that. Space, as you all mentioned, is certainly a challenge for us. We don't have a field house, so we are trying to get our 2,000 and our 2,700 students into different unique space areas. We certainly did look at every possible options. We did have an influx of some equipment purchases. Most of our equipment is mobile, so that, for example, the racks that you see on the picture are racks that fold into the wall so we can use that shelf space for something else. We're using the fitness heart rate monitors in all of our classes, and we're trying to be as creative as we can in our spacing. I know that was one of our challenges for my PE chairs, was really looking at how to organize all these sections. When we decreased our class size from 45 to 32, we obviously had an increase in our FTE. We needed to stay staffing neutral as we moved forward in this new endeavor. And what we did was the legislation changed to allow us to outsource our behind the wheel for driver's ed. So we kept our classroom teachers teaching driver's ed, but we outsourced our behind the wheel. And we brought those teachers who were part-time driver's ed and part-time PE into full-time wellness to help us combat that issue along the way. Certainly professional development has been extremely important for the teachers, as some of our teachers who had always been in an active classroom setup were now being challenged to looking at it in a different way in terms of some of the other concepts they were doing in more traditional classroom. So our instructional coaches became a vital part of that. And we are certainly still a work in progress, but I think what I'm most proud of are the instructional conversations that our teachers are having, not only with themselves and their wellness, PLTs and PLCs, but also across to our student services department, so that there is a daily partner with student services in terms of looking at our student wellness. So like I said, we are actually only in our 2nd year of implementation as we unroll this, But I really like the direction we're going and the mindset of the teachers as we approach this.
Great, thank you so much. So just thanks again to all of our case study presenters. You all stuck to perfect time, and I think we're going to have just enough time for a few questions at the end. But we did want to do a quick reflection. Sorry for missing L in the word reflection, I just noticed that. So if you could, again, use your chat box to type in to either address how you might be able to more creatively use existing space, facilities, or equipment in your school. Like, do you have a storage room that's unused? Are there places you could move students, et cetera? Go ahead and type that into the chat box. Or if you prefer some of the staffing ideas you just heard as well, or if there's any ways you want to address staffing in a more creative way at your school, go ahead and type in either, just some reflections on the last two case studies, and we will read them out to the group and then move on to final Q&A and closing out. So 1 minute to go ahead and type into the chat box either new ideas around space, facilities, equipment, or staffing that you just heard that you think could resonate with you. I don't see any coming in, so I'm assuming you're all typing, so just give it one more second here. All right, so someone says, look for creative spaces like hallways, lobby storage areas, stages, outside, and outside changes as the seasons change. So look for those spaces as you come inside. Someone said, take equipment like yoga mats, resistance bands into the classroom. Yeah, we did, when we talked to some case studies, we did hear of altering, not ideal, but altering space depending on the quarter, and having some do classroom, more sort of compact activities inside classrooms rather than gymnasiums. Let's see, we see space is an issue, having lots of classes with only 2 gymnasiums. Trying to utilize other spaces is tough. Yes, that is true. Using hallways or go in a classroom with appropriate equipment. Yeah, so it looks like a lot of sort of use of space in small, compact spaces is something you're all thinking about. All right, well, thank you for that input. So we will go ahead and move into a few things we heard from the case studies just really quickly. Having teachers in a master schedule together can help share expensive equipment across districts. So I know Principal Horn, you mentioned this in your case study, that creating a master schedule, you can then move equipment around as needed, knowing when people are having certain classes and certain units. Of course, using classroom spaces when outdoor space or the gym is unavailable, something you all just mentioned. On scheduling, thinking about how FTE teachers, you can get more time for PE and health by using PE teachers and moving things that don't need that certification around, or moving it, or even having the PE teacher teach computers, for example, is one way to sort of manage the staffing issues. So with that, we are going to go ahead and turn over to Sarah, who will close us out. And we'll also have a chance for Q&A with any of our speakers. So Sarah, do you want to close us out? And then if you want to have a question for one of the speakers, go ahead and start typing into the chat box. We'll have that ready. So Sarah, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. Yes, so some key things that have emerged from our case studies in our webinar. You can see all of these leaders prioritize wellness, and they had this trickle-down effect to the rest of the staff in the school. So it coming from the top is powerful. Awards and funding opportunities can really spur that innovation, just like we saw in Berwyn South, School District 100. Utilize that wellness team, especially around WISC and CSPAP implementation. There are lots and lots of community partners that can come into your schools and provide resources and help bolster your programming, and involving the community is a big part of not only getting that buy-in from parents and teachers and everyone, but it can make wellness so fun and engaging for everyone.
Great. So I don't see any questions in the chat box. So I'll just give you all one more minute, and maybe Sarah, you can reiterate the CPDU instructions.
Yes.
Wait to see if anyone has any questions.
Yes, thank you. So we'll need your evaluation from the state board. That is required. That is in your sidebar. You can go ahead and download that, and then you can fill it out. Either fax it to me at 312-850-4040 or email it to me. My email's on the bottom of the screen. I'll reiterate these instructions in the follow-up email when I send the recording. I will need to verify your EIEN number, your participation level. If it was lower than it needs to be, I may send an additional quiz and the eval. And then also, you will get an automatic second eval from IPHI as soon as this webinar ends. We would love to hear from you as well. Your input helps us improve our programming going forward.
Great. So thank you again for everyone for attending. I still see no questions in the question box. So at this point, thank you again to all of our presenters who helped share case studies today. We really appreciate your time, and we appreciate everyone who attended the webinar and hope this was useful to you. So we will close this out, and hopefully we'll have some new opportunities next year in 2020. Thank you.